Breaking news. Tonight, America faces a political earthquake inside the White House itself. President Donald Trump, now serving his second term in office, is at the center of a scandal unlike anything this country has ever seen. Journalists have uncovered DNA evidence that proves Barron Trump is not the son of First Lady Melania, but of Ivanka Trump, the president's own daughter. And the person bringing these revelations to the public stage is none other than Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. The chamber froze as the words echoed across the hall. Gasps filled the air, reporters scrambled to capture every sentence, and millions of viewers at home sat stunned in front of their televisions. It was a revelation so shocking, so scandalous, that it shook the very foundation of the presidency. The spark that ignited this fire came moments earlier when Ivanka Trump, flustered and angry, turned her fury on Jasmine Crockett during a heated exchange. With a sharp edge in her voice, Ivanka spat, "You're nothing but a fraud, Jasmine, a pathetic distraction who doesn't belong in the same room as this family." The insult was meant to humiliate. Instead, it gave Crockett the perfect opening. Crockett stepped forward, folder in hand, her voice calm yet unyielding. "A distraction? No, Ivanka. What's a distraction is the lie your family has been living for years. You want to belittle me? Then let's tell America the truth you've hidden. Barron Trump is your son, not Melania's. And tonight, the evidence speaks louder than any insult you can throw." The chamber erupted into chaos. Some gasped, others shouted, while reporters nearly fell over themselves rushing to push the revelation onto social media. Twitter exploded instantly with hashtags like DNA shock, Ivanka exposed, Crockett reveals truth. The moderators pounded their gavels, pleading for order, but the damage was already done. Crockett stood tall, eyes locked on Ivanka, as the nation reeled from the words that had just turned a family secret into a national scandal. The moment Jasmine Crockett's words hit the airwaves, the reaction was instant and unstoppable. News networks cut from their scheduled programming to replay the clip again and again. CNN flashed a breaking banner. DNA bombshell, Barron Trump, allegedly Ivanka's son. MSNBC anchors sat in stunned silence before admitting they had never seen anything like it in modern American politics. Even Fox News, typically a stronghold for the Trump family, stumbled over its coverage. One anchor cautiously described the allegation as deeply troubling if proven true, while another tried to pivot toward calling it a political smear. But the split-screen images of Jasmine Crockett holding a folder and Ivanka's face frozen in panic told a story that needed no narration. Online, the scandal erupted like wildfire. Twitter trends spiraled out of control within minutes. Number DNA shock, number Ivanka mother, number Crockett. Reveals. Truth climbed to the top worldwide. TikTok users stitched the explosive clip with dramatic music, while Instagram filled with memes. Ivanka's face beside the words, "Not a daughter, but a mother." Facebook feeds were plastered with live streams, dissecting the revelation, ordinary Americans turning into commentators overnight. Inside Washington, the White House scrambled. A press secretary was rushed in front of cameras within an hour, reading from a visibly rushed statement. "These are baseless accusations designed to distract from the president's successful policies. The First Family is united and attempts to slander them will not succeed." But the delivery fell flat. The press corps peppered the spokesperson with questions, demanding to know whether DNA testing had actually been conducted and why no firm denial of the possibility was given. In neighborhoods across the country, conversations buzzed with disbelief. Cafes, barbershops, subway rides, everywhere, people asked the same question. Could it be true? The idea that Ivanka Trump, now one of the most powerful figures in the administration, could also be the hidden mother of the president's youngest son was beyond scandal. It was Shakespearean in scope, a family drama threatening to become a constitutional crisis. Jasmine Crockett, meanwhile, stood silently as the firestorm unfolded. She didn't need to say another word. The evidence she promised was already dominating the national conversation. And for the first time in years, the Trump dynasty looked shaken, not by an election, not by an opponent, but by the weight of a secret too heavy to contain. The atmosphere inside the chamber was electric, every eye locked on Jasmine Crockett as she prepared to peel back the layers of the scandal. Holding the folder firmly in her hands, she raised a single sheet of paper for the cameras. "This," she declared, "is not gossip, not rumor, not innuendo. This is the certified documentation of a DNA test conducted by independent journalists who followed the trail where others were too afraid to go. The conclusion is undeniable. Barron Trump is genetically linked not to Melania, but to Ivanka Trump." Gasps rippled across the room. The moderator tried to interject, but Crockett continued, her voice growing sharper. "The investigation began months ago, after inconsistencies were noticed in travel logs, birth records, and medical histories. Journalists obtained, through legal channels, samples verified by multiple laboratories. These weren't tabloids chasing clicks. This was meticulous work, done quietly, away from the spotlight, until the results could no longer be ignored." She flipped to the next page, revealing highlighted sections for the cameras. 2 labs, one in New York and one in Geneva, confirmed the same result. A 99.97% probability that Ivanka Trump is Barron's biological mother. The hall erupted again, reporters standing on chairs to shout questions. Some screamed, "When was the test done?" Others demanded, "Who authorized the collection?" Crockett let the noise swell, then struck again. "You ask when? Last spring. You ask how? By matching anonymous medical samples connected to public health filings with voluntary materials obtained from family contacts, every step verified, every link airtight. This is not just a scandal, it is a genetic fact." Across the aisle, Ivanka's face tightened, her hand gripping the podium so hard her knuckles whitened. She tried to speak, but the noise drowned her out. Social media went into meltdown mode. Twitter surged with posts tagged "DNA revealed" and "Ivanka mother," while TikTok users looped Jasmine's phrase 99.97% probability over dramatic music. For the first time in her carefully orchestrated public life, Ivanka Trump looked vulnerable. The evidence, the words, and the national spotlight had converged into a storm she could not control, and Jasmine Crockett, unflinching, was right at its center. The weight of Jasmine Crockett's revelations pressed down on the chamber like a storm cloud ready to burst. Ivanka Trump, usually polished and composed, was visibly unraveling. Her cheeks flushed, her breathing sharp. She gripped the podium as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Finally, she snapped. "This is disgusting," Ivanka shouted, her voice cracking with fury. "This so-called evidence is nothing more than a malicious fabrication created to slander me and my family. Do you people really think I would hide something like that? Do you really think I would let my life be torn apart by some clown with a folder full of lies?" Her words echoed, but instead of silencing the room, they fueled the growing chaos. Crockett stood quietly, her calmness in stark contrast to Ivanka's rage. The audience reacted instantly. Some booed, others laughed, and a few shouted for Jasmine to show more proof. Reporters leaned over one another to catch Ivanka's every syllable, microphones thrust forward, cameras zoomed in on her trembling hands. Ivanka pressed on, her tone growing more desperate. This is an invasion of privacy, a witch hunt. DNA? Who gave you the right to steal medical records, to twist facts, to spread lies? You should be ashamed of yourself, Jasmine. Ashamed. But her voice was swallowed by jeers from the gallery. The louder she shouted, the weaker she appeared. Then Crockett leaned into her microphone, her voice steady as a blade. Ashamed? No, Ivanka. Ashamed is lying to the American people for nearly 2 decades. Ashamed is pretending to be the perfect daughter when the truth is written in your son's DNA. What you're feeling now isn't shame, it's exposure. The chamber erupted again, chants of "show the truth" rising above the noise. Social media exploded. Clips of Ivanka's furious outburst spread like wildfire under hashtags like Ivanka Unravels and #DNA Storm. Memes appeared within minutes, Ivanka screaming into a microphone beside Crockett's calm, unflinching gaze, captioned, "One has evidence, the other has panic." For Ivanka, the breakdown was catastrophic. What she intended as a fiery defense now looked like a desperate meltdown. The audience had witnessed something more powerful than any headline. The daughter of the president, cornered by facts she could not erase, shouting into a storm she could no longer control. The chamber was still vibrating with the echoes of Ivanka Trump's furious meltdown when Jasmine Crockett struck again, this time widening her scope from one family member to the entire dynasty. She stepped closer to the microphone, her eyes scanning the restless crowd. What we're witnessing tonight is not just about Ivanka Trump. This is about the culture of deception that surrounds the Trump family. A deception so deep it's been normalized in the highest office of our land. The audience quieted, hanging on every word. Crockett's tone was sharp, surgical. Let's remember the context. Donald Trump is not just Ivanka's father. He is the current president of the United States. The man who promised American strength, integrity, and leadership is presiding over a White House consumed by lies, where the truth about his own family has been buried for years. Tonight, that facade has cracked. She lifted the folder again, tapping it against the podium. DNA doesn't lie. Paper trails don't lie. Photographs don't lie. What lies is the narrative spun by those desperate to protect power at all costs. Ivanka's secret isn't just her own. It is a reflection of how far this family will go to deceive the American people. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others gasping at the boldness of her words. Reporters whispered frantically into cameras. Crockett is tying this scandal directly to the president himself. This is no longer about Ivanka alone. It's a direct assault on Donald Trump's credibility. Ivanka clenched her fists, but Crockett kept pressing. When you call me a fraud, Ivanka, remember this. I didn't spend years selling false images. I didn't build an empire on staged smiles and hollow promises. That's your family's legacy. And now, America is seeing it for what it truly is. A dynasty built not on leadership, but on lies. Social media exploded with fresh hashtags. Trump dynasty exposed, Crockett truth, Ivanka scandal. News anchors described the moment as the most direct attack on the Trump brand since the president's return to office. For the first time, the weight of the scandal wasn't confined to Ivanka alone. It stretched across the entire Trump presidency. And Jasmine Crockett, standing tall in the eye of the storm, had turned one revelation into a full-scale indictment of the most powerful family in America. As the shockwaves spread beyond the chamber, America itself seemed to convulse. News anchors across every network dropped their usual restraint and spoke with barely contained astonishment. If this DNA revelation holds true, one commentator declared, it's not just a scandal for Ivanka Trump. It's a crisis for the sitting president of the United States. Headlines screamed across screens. Crockett exposes Ivanka. Barron's DNA bombshell shakes the White House. In the streets, the public reaction was immediate. Crowds gathered in front of the White House holding hastily made signs, "Truth over power, no more lies, DNA doesn't lie." Cable networks carried live shots of demonstrators chanting Crockett's name, while counter-protesters waved Trump banners, shouting that the entire story was a hoax. The split mirrored the nation's deep divisions, but one fact was undeniable. The scandal had pierced through every corner of American life. Even late-night shows joined the frenzy. Comedians delivered biting monologues. "Move over Maury Povich," one quipped, because apparently America's biggest DNA drama is playing out in the Oval Office. Clips of laughter ricocheted across TikTok, but the humor barely dulled the gravity of the crisis. Inside Washington, pressure built. Some Republican lawmakers scrambled to defend the president, calling the revelations fake science, while others kept conspicuously silent, fearing political fallout. One senator, speaking anonymously to reporters, admitted, "If Crockett's documents are legitimate, this is catastrophic. It undermines not just the first family's credibility, but the presidency itself." Meanwhile, civil rights groups and watchdog organizations rallied behind Jasmine. They praised her courage in confronting one of the most powerful families in the world and demanded an official investigation. Hashtags like "Investigate Now" and "Truth for America" surged alongside "Just Crockett Reveals." Every television set, every smartphone, every radio seemed tuned into the unfolding storm. Talk shows devoted entire hours to debating the implications. Was this merely a family scandal or a national security issue? Could a sitting president survive such a blow to his household's credibility? Jasmine Crockett, for her part, remained composed, her silence fueling speculation that more documents were yet to come. And as the country erupted in protests, arguments, and endless debate, one truth grew clearer by the minute. The Trump dynasty had never faced a threat like this before. The chamber, once filled with chaos and disbelief, now pulsed with a strange, unifying energy. The revelations had shaken the very foundations of the Trump presidency, but Jasmine Crockett stood tall, her presence commanding the moment. She raised her hand, and the noise of the crowd softened. Reporters, lawmakers, and millions watching at home leaned in. "Tonight," she began, her voice steady but edged with steel, "we have witnessed something extraordinary. Not just the exposure of a secret that has been hidden from the American people for years, but the unveiling of a culture of deception that has no place in our democracy. Ivanka Trump hurled insults, trying to dismiss me as nothing, trying to diminish me with arrogance. But when faced with truth, her mask cracked. And behind that mask, America saw the lies." The audience erupted, chants of "Truth, truth," echoing through the chamber. Crockett let it build before continuing. "This scandal is not about gossip. It is not about humiliating one family. It is about accountability. If the President of the United States and his inner circle are willing to deceive their own citizens about something so fundamental, what else are they hiding? What other truths have been buried to protect their power?" Her words struck like lightning. Across the country, televisions flickered with her speech, living rooms and cafes filled with stunned silence. Social media live-streamed the moment, captions flashing. "Crockett, truth over lies." Crockett leaned forward, her gaze locked on the cameras. "To every American watching tonight, this is your country. This is your democracy. And you deserve leaders who do not lie, who do not manipulate, who do not build empires on secrets. The Trump dynasty may think itself untouchable, but tonight we proved that truth is stronger than fear. The chamber roared, the ovation shaking the very walls. Jasmine raised her voice over the cheers. Stay vigilant, stay courageous, and if you believe in truth, stand with me. Because this fight is not over. It has only just begun. As the broadcast cut to black, the image seared into history. Ivanka Trump, pale and silent, and Jasmine Crockett, standing unbroken, her words echoing far beyond the walls of Washington.